Right now, we have another attorney in our studio right now, who also happens to now be a Battle Creek City Commissioner. And it's Jim Lance. Jim, good morning. It's nice to have you here today.
Good morning, Tim. Thank you.
We had you here a while ago, I think, when you were running for judge.
You did. I think it was Richard who had me here in the morning.
Richard Pyatt talked with you, and in fact, I think we noticed the other day that the interview's still up on our website. You can see that if you dig for it. But my goodness, did this whole run for judge kind of whet your appetite for maybe serving the community in other ways?
I'll tell you, the running for judge did not disincentivize me, if you will, or discourage me from running. It was more of a blessing, running and learning about how to run and being out in the public than anything. So when this opportunity arose, it certainly played a role in my decision making, but more of a positive role than anything.
Sure, yeah, because you meet so many people in the courtroom and in those circles. And now all of a sudden you've expanded that world to the whole community and community leaders and the voters. And so when you got out there doing that, what did you find out about this community?
We found out largely that they care about the community. People have a lot of strong opinions, which is very good. And while I appreciate all their viewpoints, what I'm really looking forward to working with this commission and working with the city leaders right now is problem solving. And I think we have a good apparatus in place. And one of the reasons I told the commission why I wanted to be appointed was I think we're really at a point of resurgence here in Battle Creek. And when you talk to the residents, when you talk to the citizens out there, I think there is some underlying current that they believe it too. Now, can we all get on the same page and actually do some things? That's a whole other question. But for the time being, I remain optimistic and enthusiastic to do it.
Right now, your main job, you are an attorney with Price Enderle here in Battle Creek. What type of law are you specializing in? What types of cases are you involved in?
The primary areas of law that I work in, I would say, are business, real estate, estate planning, and elder law. I do a little litigation as well, but those are my primary areas of focus. And but of course, we don't turn any clients away if they want to talk to me or talk to some of our attorneys. We're able to do that. But what I provide, at least to hopefully the constituents and to my clients, is that I tell them, look, you're paying me to be your counselor just as much to offer you advice, not just for my legal opinion on things. So we're trying to counsel people as well.
Well, and all of those areas that you mentioned seem to be a great fit for local government. I mean, all areas of expertise that you can bring to the table. I think that's very important in government today. I mean, it seems like we've gotten a bit polarized in all areas of government toward trying to hammer one ideology or another home. And we haven't learned to really work together to accomplish things. It's just my way or the highway sort of mentality. And we also get a lot of ideologues in there as opposed to people who know stuff.
Well, I will tell you, the litigation that I'm definitely part of, oftentimes it settles through a third-party mediator. And so, obviously, both parties are very passionate about their positions, and much like politics, you want that. You want people to zealously advocate for their position and be enthusiastic about it. But at the end of the day, we also know that collaboration and cooperation often is what settles and resolves the matter. So, like in politics, that's going to get us there. I embrace passionate debate and vigorous debate, but I also think it should be respectful. And at the end of the day, if the position that is being advocated, whether it's by me or by someone else, isn't adopted, that doesn't mean that they are, that their position is wrong. It just means that they did not prevail on that issue at that point. And I hope, at least to work with the commissioners on this, I hope to work with more collaboration and cooperation. But at the end of the day, decisions have to be made, and that's what we'll have to do.
I'm a big fan of the TV show Law and Order, and I think, you know, while it's still a TV show, there are certain aspects of it that I think maybe I like to think are real life. And one thing that always struck me was these lawyers are having this knockdown battle in court and saying terrible things and doing all this stuff, and then they walk out to the bar and sit down and have a drink together like they're old friends. Is that accurate, and is that something that you'd like to see happen more in government?
Absolutely. Anecdotally, I would say one of our former partners in our firm often told us that the opposing counsel is not the enemy; they're just the adversary, and they're colleagues. And so after you get done with a case, you would often go and talk to them, because, quite frankly, attorneys have to deal with each other all the time. So not necessarily the parties themselves.
But you deal in the interest of justice and not just the interest of one party or the other.
That is correct.
And so we want that for government too. We want to be in the interest of all involved.
That's right. And again, because you're going to be working with these politicians and commissioners for several years, and dealing with multiple issues, not just one issue, you're going to have a relationship, and hopefully it's a positive one at the end of the day.
Jim Lance is our 5th Ward Commissioner now, filling out the term of Dave Walters, who resigned. And you have some unique qualifications in government. I mean, you're no stranger to government. You were able to work not only in the judicial branch, but the executive branch of the state of Michigan. And I understand we're able to kind of, you know, sit in the back rooms where things got hammered out, the things that people don't often hear, the arguments, the decision-making process. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, specifically in the governor's office, you deal with a lot of, obviously, issues that impact the state. And anytime an issue got to the governor's office, it had to be a big issue, because if it was a smaller issue, it was generally resolved at the lower levels. Mm-hmm. And listening to the leadership deal with all the different factors in terms of decision making, whether it dealt with the policy or the politics, or even optically, those decisions all had to be weighed in, and of course the impact and primarily the fiscal impact of decision making. In the judicial branch, having to see these very educated minds discuss issues and debate them was always a treat. And to be part of that and to participate in that's really was something that I will always cherish in my experience.
And to be able to use that experience now from the grassroots level, the lowest level of government, and by lowest I mean the most probably accessible and really most meaningful to the average Joe sitting in Battle Creek. You're able to kind of take that and apply it maybe to a city commission setting here.
Well, and we have to remember too, as commissioners, while we represent our certain, well, at least I represent a ward, and several other ones represent specific wards, the decisions that we make impact our community as a whole too, and that's kind of the decision-making process that the executive and the judicial branches, my experience has taught me, is that the decision, again, while it might impact that specific party, it's going to have far-reaching implications.
Jim Lance is our guest. He is the new 5th Ward Commissioner at the Battle Creek City Commission, filling out the seat previously held by Dave Walters, who stepped down. And what the 5th Ward, that's a lot of ground. That's a lot of real estate there, and a lot of diverse real estate in terms of, I mean, anywhere from out in the middle of nowhere to, some pretty nice neighborhoods there.
It is, and I would say that it kind of is representative of Battle Creek because of the diversity, because of the demographics that it touches on. We have business, we have affluent, we have some of the more less affluent areas. So it's really quite a hodgepodge, if you will, and nice representation of the city itself.
I was trying to nail it down, and it basically, if you go out Columbia Avenue all the way to Skyline Drive, all the way up by Arlene's truck stop to the highway, that's one border. And then back down the highway, pretty much like Capitol somewhere in there.
Yeah, basically to the mall is the end.
And then back to kind of where we're sitting. A little bit around, actually, Gogwak Lake. If you consider Gogwak Lake is in the upper north east corner of Ward 5, and then it all kind of fans out from there.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's a lot of ground. Interesting the way that your earliest years of life transpired. I think the voters would be the voters and the constituents and our listeners would be very interested to hear kind of your story, Jim. You were born in Vietnam.
I was. I was born in Vietnam, and I was actually found on a road abandoned by a U.S. soldier when I was about 3 months old. And he took me to the hospital, Saigon Hospital, which is about 6 miles away from where he found me. And there was a family in Michigan that had 4 children, young children, and the youngest child died at 6 months old of SIDS. And so my family wanted to have 4 children in Michigan, so they went through an adoption agency, and lo and behold, they found me and said, that's the guy. And I got over here in October of 1975 and have been here ever since. Good or bad, I've been here.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this 1984 Tiger team was pretty high on your list of stuff as a kid.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was wonderful to see them win it and restore the Roars as they did.
Were you able to go to many games as an 8-year-old kid or whatever?
The baseball, at least back when I was growing up, was very. It was all about my formative years and watching Sweet Lou and Trammell and Parrish and Herndon and Lemon and Whitaker. You can name off every one of the players. It was great.
I can pretty much name them all, but you ask me about the 68 Tigers, I can even tell you their batting averages. Yeah, so yeah, it's funny how that works. But so you came to this country. Is there any record of that soldier that picked you up off the road?
No, there really isn't. And when I was campaigning in 2016, it was always remarkable to me when I would see a vet, and they would read my pamphlet and they would look at me and sure enough, they would often come up to me and give me a big bear hug and tell me how lucky I was, and I would always respond by telling them that my story doesn't really begin without them, and I would then they talk to me a little bit about the soldier, and they would all respond that that's just what they were trained to do. When they found abandoned kids out there, they would just grab them, take them to the hospital, and move on.
We have a lot of soldiers, Vietnam vets in this community. We have our VA medical center nearby, and I think probably most of them would like to meet somebody like a Jim Lance and realize that they went over there and they did what they were supposed to do. They did their duty, and that it wasn't all bad.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. And we have a pretty good community here from people in Southeast Asia in the Battle Creek area right now.
We do. I know that they're finding the Battle Creek community welcoming, much like I did, and they're starting to I think find roots here and beginning to expand their opportunities and becoming more entwined with the fabric of our community.
Yep, you see that. I mean, in some communities, a group will move in and start to make it their home, but you don't see a lot of impact. But we see quite a bit of impact. This is specifically the Burmese community is very active and very industrious, it seems like so far. Before we completely run out of time, what are a couple of the things that you hope to accomplish on the city commission? What's number one on Jim Lance's hit list of things to get done?
Probably not to screw anything up, not to be an obstacle. Yeah. But really, being in the private sector, trying to see businesses succeed, trying to understand what it takes to allow a business to succeed. I think those are the things that I really want to focus on, because I look at it, if a business succeeds, then Battle Creek succeeds, then Ward 5 succeeds. So those are at least going to be my shall we say pet areas, and trying to ensure that there's a good strong business environment for that.
And, you know, I mean, we try to do the best we can, but you keep hearing tales of people who are facing obstacles, you know. City inspections, health department inspections, city water hookup for different use of a building. These types of obstacles just keep popping up, and the common denominator is it's all coming from city government.
And what I would say to that is heavy, again, being in the private sector, having represented clients who've gone through that process. I would say that it is something that we need to look at. And you know, the city workers, they're doing their jobs, they're enforcing the regulations that they have to.
Mm-hmm.
But can we streamline some of those regulations? I soon will find out.
Yep. Well, it sounds like we're going to try at least, and at least take a closer look at some of them. Jim, thanks very much for joining us today. We look forward to talking to you in the future as some of those issues do come up.
Thank you very much, Tim.
Jim Lance, 5th Ward City Commissioner, City of Battle Creek.